Look, I know that when I say this, people are going to say you're crazy because you're going to look at this. But if you told me that Kenneth Davis and I were separated at birth, I would maybe believe you. And we could go on the Henry Louis Gates and like he'd be like, yeah, doesn't make sense to me either. That doesn't, but hey, it is. Yeah, one of my favorite guests, Kenneth and I have fun every time we do this. Usually we're talking college football, but the NFL draft wrapped up, just a few days ago. One of the teams that did the absolute very best, which I know it's like a weird thing for Bears fans to hear, but the Bears did really well. I mean, they get another huge tight end to pair with Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland. They get Luther Burden. They address needs all throughout. I know that maybe fans were hoping for, like an Ashton Genty, Omarion Hampton running back to fit into that Ben Johnson offense. But Kenneth, this is a really, really good draft for the Bears, and they appear to have checked off a lot of boxes for Ben Johnson in year one.
Paul, and we've all been through this enough to know we have to wait a few years to kind of know exactly how good this draft is going to be. And I'll say you from the Chicago standpoint, there were people that were fiending for Ashton Gentry. I wasn't one of them, and that's as far as moving up. And I don't think any of us thought he was going to fall to 10. If he had fallen to 10 and the Bears selected him, I think I would have been fine with it. Also, I was a big Ty Warren guy. I was not a Colston Loveland guy. And of course, I come on here and Penn State. I know Garrett, you're there.
Yeah.
Penn State's been kicking my what all year. So you know why I was a Ty Warren guy. But I understood I watched Colston Loveland enough to know how good he is. So it wasn't like they got someone that was on a whole different tier than Ty Warren. And when you look at the fit, it doesn't bother you. I've wanted Ben Johnson to be the Bears head coach for 2 seasons now. I can't want someone who seems like one of the better offensive minds within the NFL to come in now. What we all know has control. He's higher. He's well paid and paid more than the general manager. General manager was on the hot seat. I'm sure if push came to shove and if the general manager had to be tossed to get Ben Johnson here, that probably would have taken place. So I'm sure Ben Johnson is really throwing the hammer down, and he wanted Colston Loveland. You look at the Sam LaPorta comp, you understand why. Luther Burden falling to the Bears. And let's also not act like there's not some knocks on Luther Burden when it comes to route running, dedication to the route when he's not involved in it. Growing up, we know that's always been something about how DBs and defensive players have said, well, you kind of can know what's going on by how the guy gets off the line. And that has to be something that has to improve here. But the Bears luckily have a Chicagoan or a Chicagoland player and former Steeler in Antoine Randall L. here as their wide receivers coach. So we'll see how that takes place. It definitely was a good draft. There were some players that the Bears didn't get, or positions, I should say. I think everyone would have liked to see the Bears get a defensive end. But a lot of the times it seemed like if you look at like Trayvon Henderson, as far as running backs, I'll get to end, and it's the same thing. It seems like when the Bears were going to get that player, and that player was selected, they moved down because they didn't have another player comparable to that player. And I think that's what happened with them at defensive end. They did improve the defensive line with Shamar Turner from Texas A&M, and you guys can probably give me more information about him down at Texas A&M.
I would tell you that he was the more productive Shamar of the two Shamars that were on the defensive line at A&M. Now, look, Shamar Stewart is a freak athlete, and they had, like, if you watch A&M, they had to account for him like a lot. But Nick Scorton's on the other end, and Shamar Turner, Garrett, I know you were nodding your head too.
Yeah, he's good.
But, like he will get in everybody's grill. Like he's that kind of player. When I think of an old school Bears defensive tackle, I think he fits that. He's big, strong, athletic, not afraid to do it. He's a Roy Miller type, I think. Maybe he's a little bit like taller and leaner in that regard, but he's still a big dude. So I mean, look, they had 3 second round picks, right? So they got 4 guys that you can I don't know if you want to call them starters, because I really do like Ozzie Trapillo from Boston College.
BC.
From BC. He's really good and strong and can every draft I flipped to said like this guy's probably a day one starter. If it works out that way, like they had their starting offensive line I know set, but that's been the big issue. Like they brought in like the 3 trades they made. I think this gives an opportunity to like find out if Darnell Wright belongs here or here. So of course, I'm a big Ben Johnson fan. I'd hoped the Cowboys would hire him as their head coach, but that was never going to happen because it's innovative. So I like that at least in year one, you're seeing what kind of team he wants to build. But like you said, the draft is the ultimate crapshoot. When people pull out draft grades, I'm like, okay. I mean, you don't know what, like they may look good in college that they might've been hurt that whole time and playing through it. And then they get to the NFL and they just never get better. I think one of the things that people don't understand is like, okay, when you're on a college team, you don't, you're the best player from your high school. So is everybody else. When you are on a pro team, you're the best player from your college team. So is everybody else. So like it gets harder and harder and harder as you go along. But I mean, is there positive buzz around the Bears that there hasn't been because of Ben Johnson, because of some of the things that are going on? Or is this it's been since 1985. Is this a scarred fan base that needs to see it to believe it?
Oh, that's a great question. Definitely a scarred fan base, but hope springs eternal. I am usually a realist. I do try to sprinkle some sunshine in, but I'm not going to lie to you. So some people don't necessarily like that. And I like that about Bears fans to a degree. Particularly like there's some fan bases here where you worry about just donating your money to an organization and the organization not trying. The Bears have been trying. Back about 20 years ago, to knock on the Bears was that they were cheap. Bears haven't been cheap in a long time. To go deeper into your question, I think fans have gotten used to this is a third probably off season where it's been viewed the Bears have won the off season. So I think that there's a smidget of wait and see because we won it when we got the trade from the Panthers, right? Then we won it where we got the quarterback that everyone wanted last year with Caleb Williams, right? And now you look at this year and Burden being the last part of the trade to Carolina, and how the Bears did well. You mentioned the fact that they made a couple of trades to bring in the offensive lineman and sign Dahlman from the Atlanta Falcons. But I think the big thing, and I want to get back on the Ben Johnson part real quick. Ryan Poles, Bears general manager, has been keeping his powder dry when it comes to the amount of money that the Bears have invested in their players. The Bears, after his first season, they were cash strapped and he got rid of Mack and got players up out of here and wasn't going to re-sign Smith. They've been one of the teams that have the most money at the end of the season. And this was the first year where that money was spent, and it was spent on something that I think tells us, and I think it's indicative of what we thought Ben Johnson was going to do, and that was to fortify the offensive line. I don't think Ryan Poles would have spent the money and the draft capital that he did to fortify from guard to guard when we're talking about Tooney, Dahlman, and Jonah Jackson. I don't think they would have done all three of them. And the Bears had holes outside of Darnell Wright, and we're still waiting to see who Darnell Wright is and can he get back to being the player that they thought they were getting out of Tennessee. Then you mentioned Chapillo, and one of the little questions that's slightly being bantered about here is could we see perhaps Wright getting some reps at left with the fact that Bears left tackle Braxton Jones had a late season injury and looks to get back before the beginning of the season, but there'll still be reps. And then you had they drafted a player out of Yale last year, Corinne. I'm not going to batter his last name right now, but he's been a third round pick, and Ryan Poles has missed. He got Velus Jones out of Tennessee a few years ago. He's been really hasn't hit when it comes to third round picks. So there's a little bit of trepidation when you talk about Bears and Ryan Poles and kind of getting players that are projects. So looking at what they've done, it seems sound, and it definitely seems like they're going to put their best foot forward to get Caleb Williams to the next level. A lot of that has to be on Caleb, but I think they have the best offensive mind in the league that was available to find out if Caleb Williams can be as good as what Bears fans have hoped with them bringing him in to the fold.
How do you feel about the future of the Bears not being in Soldier Field and being in a different stadium?
I hate it.
Yeah.
I live so that if you ever see Sunday Night Football, that road that's right there with traffic, it used to actually be Lakeshore Drive used to be on both sides of Soldier Field. So out by the lake was the northbound lane, and the southbound lane was on the interior side. And then after the Bears moved to U of I and they renovated it and put the toilet bowl in there, they made both lanes on the outside so it could be more parkland for the museum campus. It's a part of my life. I'm not that old to where the Bears played at Wrigley Field. The Bears have always played at Soldier Field. I think now, of course, you're talking about taxpayer money and you're talking about billionaires wanting money that they should be able to fork up themselves. So I understand, even though if the Bears move to Arlington Heights, they're still going to have to use taxpayers' money regardless. I think for the city of Chicago and downtown Chicago, it would be wonderful to have events like Final Fours, everything here, and people could leave that place and go downtown. Why would you want to go to Arlington and then have to bus it back downtown to party in the city? So for me, I think Soldier Field would be, as a fan, I've always said this, though. If I was the Bears ownership, I would have always owned my own stadium. The Bears would have had to, the city would have had to sell me majority of Soldier Field, if not all of it, a long time ago. I wouldn't have played this game. I wouldn't have had a franchise worth $4 billion without owning the stadium. I mean, because imagine with the stadium how much the place is worth. So I understand why. I'm not going to like it. It does seem like that Arlington Heights is we've even heard from Bears president that Kevin Warren that is back in play. He, of course, wants the Bears to be downtown, but I'm sure the Bears want to get shovels in the ground and they own the land. And if anybody hasn't seen the amount of land from the old racetrack, is vast. Like, it's so much more space. Yeah. Even if they put it at where Soldier Field is, it's not comparable to the amount of space that they would have to build casinos, hotels, all the things that they can do out there. But what are they going to do when the Bears are bad? Like, that's the thing. And a lot of times the Bears have been bad. That's not to say that fans won't show up, but how long are people going to want to go to the suburbs to do something? Where here in Chicago, this isn't Detroit. This isn't the Commanders moving back to Washington, D.C. in a few years. Our teams have always played within the confines of the city. So this would be something different for Bears fans, but some people, I'm sure, will be fine with them moving to the suburbs and maybe closer to them. Some people may be, frightened to come downtown because, the kids like to go down there and run around the city, but that's what major big cities are about for the most part, as long as nobody really gets hurt.
Yeah. I know. I look, if I'm and I've been to Chicago 3-4 times in my life. If I'm a sports fan living in that city, I want to be able to get on public transportation as much as I can and get somewhere. I want it, the traffic is going to be terrible no matter what, but anytime I can get, Soldier Field, Wrigley, United Center, like whatever it is, if I can get there without much headache, that's what I want, because there's a ton of people. And if you move it outside the city, look, the Cowboys live, they're in Arlington, and it's the only place that the dart rail doesn't go to because of parking. And so that's what you run the risk of, is like, there might be, they might send some public transportation out there, but it's not going to be it's not going to drop you off right in front, right? There's going to be some money making aspect to it in the suburbs that doesn't exist in the city. That's what always troubles me about it. So, Kenneth, I always love having you on. We on the Triple Option, the other podcast I do, today's the last day, and we're sundowning it for a little while and then retooling. I would like to get you to commit to be a regular guest, because it's going to be sports and pop culture and comedy, and I think you're perfect for it. So right now, in front of the people, my long-lost brother, Kenneth Davis.
Definitely. I look forward to it. Garrett, I look forward to coming for you. I want to know about LSU players. I haven't forgotten about you, Garrett.
I don't want that smoke.
I want to know. I want the smoke. I just want to be informed, too. It's not even just about the smoke. I want to get those insights. I'm a big SEC fan, but it's definitely different from someone that's maniacal about their fan base. So it's not just I'm coming at you. I also want the insight because, again, like I said, I love SEC football, Roll Tide all day, especially on Saturdays.
Yeah. Kenneth Davis, go check him out. Name the Bears podcast again. It's the
right now we're doing 3 Men in a Pod with the host from our former NBC podcast because NBC Sports went dark here in Chicago. They got out of the RSN business. For anybody who know, regional sports networks haven't been as profitable, so they decided to wash their hands of it. And right now, follow me at That's Davis and 3 Man Pod with Josh Schrock from the Under Center podcast, former Bears insider, and of course my guy James Shapiro from Big Ten Country. We have formed Voltron and then Triumvirate, and we will bring you all that you need sports-wise.
I love it, Kenneth. I love it. I'm subscribing right now. That's Kenneth Davis. Please look him up. This is 365 Sports. Another Davis, Joshua Davis from the Philly Special podcast, comes up next.